Bye! My name is Josh Miller. I own Riverstone Kennels, and I've been training gun dogs for more than 16 years. I have field trialed, I've hunt tested, but at the end of the day, I'm a duck hunter. You might find that the duck in our Duck Dogs podcast is spelled uniquely. The UK stands for my British Labs. I love my British Labs. I love what they offer me, both as a part of my family and the high motor in the field. As you're going to find, I have some pretty special dogs. Follow along in our podcast series here as we talk about both in the field hunting and in the field training situations that will hopefully help you progress with your dog at home.
Welcome back to another episode of Duck Dogs. I am Whitney Miller. I am Josh's wife, and I also handle the breeding side of our business. Josh is on the phone with me. He's in Arkansas at the Delta Waterfowl Expo. Before we jump into everything we have to talk about, I am going to go through and thank our sponsor, starting with DUK. They make a great premium food for all of the dogs and puppies. We have Lucky Duck. They make a 5-star crash test rated kennel. Gun Dog Supply, if you need anything for your dogs, puppies, for training. They have great customer service, and it is your one-stop shop. And then we have Sitka. Josh always raves about their men's clothing. I'm going to rave about their women's clothing. Women, if you need anything for lifestyle or hunting, go to Sitka. You cannot go wrong. And then, of course, we have Retriever Roadmap, which is our online training program. So let's jump in. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It is very hot down here in Arkansas. It's very different than Wisconsin. You know, a lot of times in the hunting season when I'm down here and snowing at home, I go, gosh, like, why do we live up north? And then I come down here in the summertime, and that answers my question for me. So, so it's hot, it's humid, but it's hopefully going to be a great show. You know, this is the first year that Delta Waterfowl has had this expo. So anytime you've done a lot of first year events, you never quite know what to expect. Yeah, I'm sure that there's going to be some things to learn and iron out as far as the show goes. But the nice part is that the guy that's running the event and kind of heading this, his name's Brad, and Brad's a great friend of mine. We worked many years together, with through Pheasants Forever. So they have someone that's very knowledgeable at the helm of this thing. So I think it should be probably a much more successful first event than most are. But I'm down here speaking on behalf of DUK, and this is where it's just so fun having these business relationships, right? So like DUK has me down here speaking on their behalf, but Lucky Duck, who we have a great relationship with as well, is literally the booth, next to them. And so, I'll be speaking kind of right in front of both of them and getting to hang out with those guys here all weekend. And so it's, there's a lot of positive things that hopefully will come from the weekend down here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I am a little jealous of you just because I love building off of all those relationships that we have with everyone. And then also it's so fun when you travel and then you see, new clients that we have maybe on the puppy reservation list, or clients that have gotten dogs from us that, want to come back and reconnect. And so I am a little bit jealous that you get to be there and just talking with everyone. I'm obviously back taking care of the kids and puppies, but we each have our own role, and hopefully I can get back on the road with you eventually, hopefully soon.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I'm jealous of you being at home. If I were to be completely honest, because this is a really tough stretch of the year for us.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of put it into perspective for everybody, we don't have a single weekend open from now until the end of September. Now a couple of those September weekends are hunts. As we get the season going with our Kansas sub season, with our Texas teal opener. So some of those are hunts, but certainly from now to the end of August, it's all shows and it's all speaking engagements. And there's a love love-hate relationship with that, because like you said, Whit, like we love reconnecting, with clients, that we don't get to see on a regular basis. We love, meeting new people. We love, the brand, reach, and that relationships with these companies, right? Like we love all that. But I'd also be lying to you if I didn't, tell you in full disclosure that it also makes this next month extremely stressful for me, because here I am coming through the end of my training, summer season, right? So like all of my advanced dogs all go home end of August because I start traveling, first part of December, or I'm sorry, September, for hunting season. And so they have to, get home. And so here I have, this next, 4 weeks that I have, speaking engagements every single weekend. I have, owners that are coming in from literally all over the country. I've got, Nebraska, I've got Georgia, I've got Texas. Those are just the ones that pop into my head. And then, so then you have to make that time. You still have to keep the dogs, progressing. And then, you also don't want to be losing too much time, so like game fair, a lot of our local, clients, Minnesota, Wisconsin, they love game fair, right? Because, it's 2 3-day weekends, 2 Friday, Saturday, Sundays. They get to come out as like the state fair, for outdoorsmen. Everybody brings their dogs. It is a great event for sure. But that's 6 days and 2 weeks that we lose, and so it does become stressful at the same time, simply because of the time of year, and then that finish line that we're trying to hit before travel season starts. So so love it for a lot of reasons, stresses me out, for a lot of reasons. But at the end of the day, it is a great thing. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here doing this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like sitting here thinking, I'm like, well, what were we doing getting married in August? We literally picked the busiest month of the entire year to get married in.
Well, at the time, the thought process was, let's get married before hunting season starts, so we didn't have to deal with that. But yeah, looking at it now, you throw our anniversary in there, and which is 10 years this year. Yes, I remember.
Good job.
So there's there's just there's a lot. This next month is it's always the toughest of the year for us. So but this is a new one. This Delta Waterfowl Expo is a new one. Love that. Love this waterfowl centric. Love that I'll get to see a lot of the guys that I hunt with down here. It's not really the area that I necessarily hunt, but it's close enough where so many guys that I have relationships with and friendships with will bounce over and say hi and hang out a little bit. And I really am looking forward to that side of it. So didn't bring a dog this time, mainly because these indoor events, for the dogs, they just get so. Now, if this event was outdoors, I probably wouldn't have brought one either, because the heat index that's outside right now. But these indoor shows just get so hard for these dogs. And this is the first time that I haven't brought a dog. And I'm really going to kind of feel out how this goes, because how this works with these poor dogs is, they we're in a hotel downtown. Okay, so we're downtown Little Rock right now. Okay, so nowhere to go take them on a walk and exercise them right here at the hotel. So that's first hurdle. Then, they're in the room or in the crate all night. We get to the show, they're in the kennel, the entire day. They get to have, I have 2 speaking engagements a day for an hour. So they get an hour out of the crate, and what they do, they get to go sit on a board on stage, because the stage is a, 10 by 10 platform, and you can't do anything, off that platform. And then they go back in the kennel, and then I walk them back to the hotel, try to get them to go to bed. Like, it's just not a fun thing for the dogs at all. And there's just not a reason. Like, game fair is different. We're outside, we're by the water. We can, kind of show them off a little bit, show some training situations. That's different, but this is going to be a little different for me too, because I've always at least had the dog to reference, or, if I'm talking about something, I can walk to the dog and kind of, show, like, where would I have the leash, on a slip lead on a dog's neck, and why, and it's a little easier to put it in perspective when the dog is there. But so this will be different in that way. I'm interested to know if I like it better or worse, because I can see it. Like I will say I like it better from the dog standpoint already, just because the poor dog hasn't had to sit in the hotel room for, the last, day, right, as I was helping, these companies set up booths and all that kind of stuff. Like the poor dogs just don't get to do anything. So, so I like it from that standpoint, and then travel is always stressful on dogs, and so yeah, that aspect. So we'll see how it goes, but I am looking forward to, specifically, Eukanuba and Lucky Duck have been two great companies, for us to work with in a lot of facets. So, so I'm anxious to be able to, be on stage and represent those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I love having all the dogs home with me. I mean, it's so fun when you give your seminars and you do have the dogs to reference, and it's so fun for people to see the dogs in person, because we talk about them all the time, but it's pretty rare that unless they come out to the kennel to see the dogs that they ever get to see them. So I think from like an outsider view, they always love to see the dogs, because I think people get a great idea of what our dogs are like through Instagram and social media, the things that we post, but it's always so different when you get to see them in person even. So I think from an outsider view, it's kind of a bummer you don't have the dogs, but from the dogs' well-being, I think it's great that they're home with me. They get to sleep in the bed with me. But we get to have fun. We get to go to the lake, and they're enjoying being home. So you don't have to worry. We are keeping them very busy, throwing some steady retrieves and doing all that fun stuff with them at home. And the kids love having them at home too.
Good.
Yeah. Okay, so what other shows? We talked about Game Fair. We have that 2 weekends in August. And then what other shows do we have after that? We have the Wisconsin one, I think, right?
Yeah, Wisconsin Waterfowl Expo. That would be the weekend after Game Fair.
Right.
And so that is another new event. That's going to be, I believe it's a one-day event. I could be misspeaking there, but I don't believe I am. I think it's a one-day. I think it's a Saturday event. I can't remember the town exactly. I don't know if it's Oshkosh or Green Bay. I cannot remember off the top of my head where it is. But Wisconsin Waterfowl Expo, if you go check that out. So I'll be speaking there as well. And I mean, this is just that show season. I think everybody gets their shows, and as everyone's kind of getting excited and amped up for the upcoming season. So yeah.
I was going to say that it is nice that this one starts earlier than all the others, because then the three next ones, the 2 Game Fair weekends and then that waterfowl one in Oshkosh, they're basically kind of local, so that's really nice. And then you can travel back and forth. What I think is really cool that not maybe a lot of people understand about the dogs that you bring is that you really kind of fly by the seat of your pants on what dogs you're going to bring to those seminars. So, you don't bring just like Brock or Bud to every single seminar. You get to bring the different ones. And with Game Fair, are you going to keep the same 2 dogs both weekends, or what do you think you're going to do? You think you're going to switch it up or keep the same?
Yeah, so not only do I fly by the seat of my pants as far as the dogs go, but oftentimes I don't even know the topic that I'm being asked to speak about until I get up on stage. And I would say the same is true for this. I don't know what my topics are supposed to be. I know I speak twice a day, but I don't know what my topics even are. And what I like about that is, when I first started doing seminars, and this was a long time ago. I mean, I did my first seminars with Easton when he was young, and so this probably had to have been 11, 12 years ago now. And I remember my first seminar ever was Pheasant Fest in Des Moines, Iowa, and I wrote an outline on a notebook. And I literally stayed up, like I didn't even go to dinner with the group that night. I sat in my bed and I rehearsed that outline over and over and over again. I mean, I was so nervous. And I'm sure come actual presentation time, it probably sounded incredibly robotic, right? Because I'd rehearsed this thing so much that I'm sure it just sounded like that's exactly what happened. And, as I got more comfortable with it, what I found was that there was one time, I think it was at the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where I came a day early and was just kind of settling in. There was somebody that had a seminar that I can't remember if they got sick or what the reason was, but they had a slot that opened and they knew that I had gotten in a day early. It's a 9-day show, and so I don't speak for all 9 days. I usually try to pick 4 of the 9. And so they're like, hey, can you take this spot and speak? And I was like, sure, that's fine. When is it? And they're like, in 8 minutes. I was like, okay. So I'm scrambling to get the dog ready and get over there, and had no idea what I was going to speak about. Had no idea, I think I had a new dog. I can't remember who it was with me at the time. So a dog that's never been in an arena. Usually I like to get there early, kind of at least settle him in. Yeah, especially in that setting there is a big arena. It's like basically like you're in like a big hockey rink almost, with people literally sitting all the way around you. And that probably was one of my absolute favorite seminars I ever gave, because all I did was I kind of fed off the crowd. So like my first couple, things I did was like ask questions, so like, who has a dog? What kind, who is a retriever? Who is a pointing dog? Who is an at-home companion? And what I was doing was I was trying to gauge the crowd of, okay, who's here? This wasn't a planned thing, right? So like people that were coming to see, me speak, it wasn't this. Right. So these people were expecting to be, I think actually what it was, you'd love this. I think it was the guy that was like the snake charmer. Right. So like God. they're expecting to see, snakes being handled. And here I am, that come up and I'm like, hey, you're actually going to see a dog. And so, but what it did is that by flying by the seat of my pants on that, it just made it feel more real. And I fell in love with doing that. And so what I started doing, and, so actually it was probably, Easton was probably right before this that I stopped using Easton. So right before that moment was my dog moment, and so this was at another Pheasant Fest event, I believe, or actually maybe it was at Game Fair. I can't remember now. It was so long ago. What I would always do with Easton is I would have Easton sitting behind me, and I would always tell people, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and I would walk through what I was going to demonstrate. And in my head, it was just going to give people just kind of an educated, idea of what it was that they were going to watch here in just a few minutes. So I would get, prep everybody. I walk back at Easton, do the thing. Okay. Well, I was so repetitive in what I was doing at that time, right? Because at this point, I'm not flying by the seat of my pants yet, right? I'm very structured, and this is what I speak about. And what happened was I went and was telling people what it was that I was going to show them, and everybody starts laughing. And I'm like, okay, like, wasn't meant to be a joke, right? It was like, I'm going to take him on a leash. I'm going to walk him over on this side, okay? And I was like, whatever. And I just kind of kept rolling with it, and people continued to laugh. I'm like, what the heck? And so finally there was a small old lady in the front row. I'll never forget it. And she puts her hand up and she's like, he's doing it behind you right now. And I turned around. Easton was literally walking through what we were going to do, because we had done it, hundreds of times. And so it hit me. I was like, okay, so the dog is too robotic, right? So now I need to bring in new dogs. I need to bring in young dogs. And what happens is that when you bring in these dogs that are not conditioned to being on the stage, there's going to be some sort of fireworks. There's going to be something that comes up. The dog is going to be more relatable, right? Yeah. Because, my dog, as I'm sitting in the audience, isn't going to be the robot that's up there, right? So like, my dog's the dog that's goofing off. My dog's the one that's, like, I think last year, I believe, did I bring Solo last year to Game Fair? I can't remember. Maybe either. I didn't. I can't remember who. I think it was a client dog, actually, now that I think that I brought to Game Fair. And he laid down and was crawling like almost like chasing this butterfly, and it's like, okay, like everybody laughs, like that's relatable. Like my dog would goof off like that. And so, it's just different ways that are, you can connect, with people. I love connecting with people. Like when I watch the crowd and I watch like you can tell, like there's just, a way to read facial expressions. It's like, hey, I'm making an impact right now, or I'm not. You see half the crowd falling asleep or, eating their hot dog or whatever. Like, okay, that those people are probably not engaged, right? And so that's what really fuels me, when I feel like I'm making an impact, when I feel like I'm making a difference, for someone to be able to go home and have a better relationship with their dog. That's what gets me excited. And quite frankly, that's why this podcast even started, because that was taken away from me with COVID. this was how this platform even began. That was a weird, way of trying to say that. This became a reality because of that. And so, really kind of an interesting, chain of events there. But yeah, so it's normally, fly by the seat of my pants on topic. We're going to bring a dog that we know is going to screw up a little bit and make it, more fun. Mm-hmm. And it just seems to be where, people have really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah. I think it's so funny because you're such a type A person in everything that you do. And then you become extremely type B in all your presentations with like not practicing, like not knowing what you're going to talk about. And I think it's such an interesting concept, because it's like you would think that would be like the number one thing that you'd be so type A about, like what you were in the very beginning. And so as you're talking, I'm just like, it's crazy how you've changed so much in all your seminars to be such a type B person to connect with your crowd to make it like the best possible seminar for those people you can. And honestly, like I am married to you. I work with you. Like I literally see you all the time to an extent. And I still love watching the seminars because they're so entertaining and you can just see how much you absolutely love being up there, making an impact with people, working with the dogs and teaching people. Like you are totally a teacher when you're up there and when you're doing these podcasts and you make it so relatable to people that it's almost like when you're giving a seminar, you are you're just like sitting down and having a conversation rather than being up there being like, okay, this is what you need to do and this is what's wrong and this is what's right. You're not talking above people. It's like you're just talking genuinely to the crowd. And I think it draws everyone in, including myself, which I can't say very many people do that being a husband and wife. And it's been really fun over the last 10 years watching you make all these changes and evolving into what you are today.
Well, it's funny you say that because that was intentional. Yeah, and the reason that was intentional is because as much as I love to be type A, I love to have control. I love for things to go smoothly and go right. I'm also a big why guy. Like I like there has to be a why. Like why are we doing this? Why are we making this decision? Why are we going down this road? Like tell me the why, and I'm all in. Right? If you can't tell me the why, then I'm not. And what I started really doing was studying speakers. And this doesn't mean dog speakers. I actually, didn't watch many dog speakers. I watched a lot of, but I shouldn't say that. Like I did watch a fair number of dog speakers. And there's some dog speakers do a great job. Like they do a really good job connecting with people, delivering the message. But most of them do a very poor job. And the reason I believe that is because, a lot of dog people or animal people for that matter, they're great with connecting and working with the animal. They're not great with working with the people. And I know that kind of seems silly, but that's the truth. Like I know very personally a lot of very talented trainers that if you spend 5 minutes talking to them, you would be like, that guy's a complete jerk. There's no way I ever want to see that guy again. No way I'd ever send my dog to him, right? Like very talented trainer, but just has a hard time connecting with people. And so I saw this as like one of my first opportunities to separate myself because like I saw the inside of a lot of, back then it was pro staffs, right? Like pro staffs were a big deal in the outdoor industry. And like I was on the inside, specifically working with sport dog going, okay, so like what separates these people? And I listened to a really good friend of mine, Kevin Lee. Kevin handled the process at the time. I remember being in the car with him as we would work shows together, and he would ask me. He'd have a dog trainer that would call and say, "Hey, I should be on your pro staff." He's like, "Great, why?" And they're like, "Well, because then I'd be using your stuff." And he's like, "Okay, well, there's that. A lot of trainers would say that. So like, what can you do for the company, right?" And they're like, "Well, I would be using your stuff." And it's like, okay, like I understood what Kevin was trying to say without saying it. I was like, where's the added value for us? Because there's a lot of dog trainers out there, right? So like, what are you going to do for us? And so that was my first kind of inside track on, hey, if I can speak, if I can deliver a message, if I can connect with people, like that is how I can add value to relationships, but then also connect with people on a more, personal level. And so when I went from, like, when I really started watching people speak, all the people that I watched speak were experts in their field. Everything from business management to leadership to real estate to finances to, like, I love watching good speakers speak. But even though they're experts in those fields, the best ones, the ones that connect, they don't stand up there that are like, you have to do 1, 2, 3, or you're going to fail, right? Mm-hmm. Or you have to do A, B, C, or you're an idiot, right? Like there are people that speak that way, but those aren't the people that I connected with. Those aren't the people that are like, oh my gosh, like, I'm buying in, like, I trust you. I like, so I started looking at that from the dog side of it, and I'm like, okay, like, here's my why. Like, I want to connect with you, but I can connect with you by being more open, right? By being understanding, by understanding that you don't have, a tech pond. You don't have, 10 grand worth of tools that you're using every day. You don't have, like, how can I still make you successful, right? Like, so there was a lot to this as far as, like, being intentional with how the delivery, and I know we're kind of getting off into the weeds here as far as, just presentations. Like, I didn't mean for this to be a presentation, podcast, but it is really interesting because, this is part of the business. This is part of what we do. This is part of why, we do it. And this is, quite frankly, how we have made so many relationships. We have people that I stay in touch with, that have phone calls, that have emails with, that I have never trained a dog for them. They have never purchased a dog from us, but they have seen me speak a number of times, and they just, we sat and talked for, 2 hours after my seminar. We stayed in touch, almost like, called, virtual pen pals, through email, and and we stay in touch. So it is really interesting. It's so interesting how this can kind of grow your friendship.
Yeah, and once again, it's all because of the dogs. Like, it's just incredible.
For sure.
Okay, I'm going to switch topics on us just a little bit because I want to talk about one of my all-time favorite hunting trips that we take, which is our very first one in September, the dove hunting. And so I am like almost honestly overlooking August because I am so excited to go on the dove hunt. So last year I took Purdy on that hunt, and she was such a little rock star. I mean, remember, we had imported her. That was the very first live hunt that she had ever been on. She crushed it. And I think that's totally when her and I became so connected. Because I just instantly fell in love with her. She was so calm, so quiet, under control. Like, I mean, she was just everything that I needed in a female dog, that, and I had never had that connection before with, like, a dog that I would call my own. So I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I am so excited for this hunt. But kind of, I don't even know where we go for this hunt. I'm just like, I just go along for the ride. So do we go to Kansas? Where do we go? I don't even know.
Yeah. So for our annual dove hunt, we do go to Kansas. And it is to me the absolute best preseason tune-up that you could have. I mean, you could not ask for a better situation, right? Because the people we go with, so who first invited us on this trip was a great client of ours. Between he and his sons, I think we've trained 6 or 7 dogs, for them now. Majority of those dogs, coming from us. I mean, they're just, great. They're just great people, And what I love so much about it is, okay, so after we just talked about the grind that the end of July, August is for us, to be able to go take a breath and appreciate why we just went through that whole, gauntlet I think is very rewarding. And we get to sit and enjoy our own personal dogs. We get to sit and enjoy our company, right? With, between you and I, and then, John and everybody else. And it's just so relaxed, you know, like, and when we go waterfowl hunt, it's like, you're there extra early because you're brushing in blinds and you're setting decoys and you're like, not dove hunting. Like you carry your bucket and your case of shells and maybe one lucky duck spinner out there, and you're set. It's not like it's so chill. Mm-hmm. And then the way that we oftentimes sit is we'll sit in like a big sorghum field or something like that, and we'll be spread out, maybe 100 yards apart from each other all the way down. And it's like, we can sit there and yell at each other and jab at each other if we missed, or, hey, that was awesome shot, or that was a great retrieve, that Sprig just made, or, whatever it is. Like, it is really a fun environment. And I think that's the reason I love it so much. But then from the dog standpoint of it, it's like, so a lot of times when I bring a young dog on their first hunt there, it's the best situation that I could have, because I could bring, say, Solo this year, and I could sit him down and I could say, I'm going to let the first 15 land in the decoys or fly by or whatever. Like, I can make that up in my head. Well, there's so much opportunity. I can do that knowing that I'm probably still going to be able to shoot my bird, give him his 15 retrieves, which is the limit, and be done. But I'm going to make sure that you are going to be steady. And then, even if two come in, I'm only shooting one. And I'm going to make sure that one is one right in the decoys. And then, you know what I mean? Like, you can be so selective where when you have a group of guys in a waterfall blind and that first group peels in there, like, there's no way you can convince your buddies, like, hey, the first three groups need to come in, land on the water, get out of here. Like, it's not happening, Maybe if you're by yourself, and maybe if you're in a very target-rich environment, okay. But most of us don't have that luxury. And so what we love about dove season is weather's super nice. We can be super chill. And what I love about it, quite frankly, is that you've loved it. And that's made it even more special for me.
Oh my gosh. I look forward to, like, on the last day, I'm like, I cannot wait for next year. Like, I get so pumped up about it. So I think we talked about this, but I used to do a ton of practicing with clay pigeons. Like, middle of winter, I'd be out there. Like, I had this electric clay pigeon thrower, and I would totally be out there just shooting, practicing my shot. And so when it comes
all the time, it was to the point it was obnoxious. It was all the time.
Seriously, but it was. I mean, I love to be competitive that way, and I love the challenge of shooting the dove as they come in, and they're flying left and they're flying right and they're flying away from you. And I'm just like, I love that competition with you, because we have to make something a competition when we're out hunting. And I'm like, I can usually, last year I really dominated you in that shooting aspect. I'm so sorry to say and tell everyone that, but I really did. And it's just, I don't know, like, the whole thing, like you said, it's so fun from the dog aspect. Who we are there with. It's like a hunt that you and I get to really enjoy together. We're not freezing cold. We don't have to get up super early. You can go morning, evening, depending on how many you get in the morning. Sometimes we will literally stop our hunt in the morning so we can finish our limit in the evening, because we love going out so much. And it's like, it's just such an incredible hunt for us to do together, because then after that, we really kind of split our own ways, in a sense, because you'll go on to Texas after that. I obviously have to come back home to the puppies and the kids. And then it's almost like, okay, when are we going to see each other next? So it's just kind of one of those great trips, one more hoorah-rah for the summer. And then we kind of split our own ways a little bit. And so, it's just an awesome trip. I'm super excited. And then I will kick off pheasant season. And then you kick off all the duck seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll get crazy here really quickly. Yeah, that's for sure. But we got to get through August first.
We have to get through August 1st. Absolutely. It's not far away.
Right. Well, I should jump off because I have to go, but I think you were going to stay on, right?
Yep.
And I think one of the things that would be really neat is kind of go over the puppy, side of things, as you've had, a really busy spring into not so busy of a summer, but then you're going to get really busy again. And so, like, juggling, and this is where, like, it gets really tough, on our schedules when you add the kids involved, right? Because it's like, okay, so you're going to have, a bunch more litters. You're going to have me gone and traveling a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have a 3.5-year-old daughter and what will be in October a 2-year-old son who's turned into a complete hellion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're going to have a lot going on. So how do you juggle the family aspect
Mm-hmm.
to the business aspect? And the business aspect includes client communication. And I mean, there's so much that goes into your business that I think is easily overlooked. And so, that I think would be a really neat thing, to dig into, on top of anything else that you wanted to talk about. But I really appreciate you, Whitney, going and taking care of this, because there may not have been a Duck Dogs episode if it wasn't for you this week, jumping into this. So, so thank you for that. I'm going to go. If you guys are at the Delta Waterfall Expo, make sure you swing in, say hi, chat with me a little bit. I'll be at the Eukanuba booth. Otherwise, I will talk with you guys next week after I'm back home. I can kind of give you a recap on how the show went, and we'll dig into some more training topics.
That sounds awesome. Tell everyone hi for me, please.
All right, I will.
All right.
All right. See ya.
Bye. All right, everyone. I think Josh literally said he married a rock star without actually saying he married a rock star. So, yes, when Josh leaves, there's a lot to juggle. I think that it's literally you have to take it day by day. We're super fortunate that our kids go to an amazing school every day, Monday through Friday. So I know they are there having the time of their life, playing with friends, learning a lot of things. So that is great, knowing that they are safe and with people that we just think so highly of. And then that gives me time to really focus on our puppies. And so I have had about 90 puppies this spring. It has been crazy. And a lot of people are like, why would you do that to yourself? And, when you think about the breedings, females come into heat every 6 months. And so if I did not breed those females this spring, their 6 months would likely fall somewhere in that hunting season. And a lot of our clients who use breeding contracts with, they want their dogs for hunting season, rightfully so. And so what I would just be doing is stacking up myself another extremely busy spring the following year. And so when you just have all these females come in to heat at the same time, Josh and I understand it's going to be crazy busy on my side of things with all the puppies. He understands that, he's home. He's not traveling for hunting season. So he is basically a one-man show at home with the kids. And we just really make it work. We understand that we each have our own busy seasons. Mine has just been the spring, and Josh's is always in the fall, of course. But we make it work. We juggle, and we understand what each other is doing. Now, after this spring, I had never, ever, ever been so busy. Was so unbelievably blessed with having just such healthy puppies. My mamas were phenomenal. I could not have had better mamas this spring. They were so, so good, so loving. We did have 2 females, Willow and Sammy. They ended up getting C-sections. Both of them had stuck puppies. And so that is why we get puppy count x-rays, is to know how many puppies we are expecting in the litters for instances like that. So Willow, she's just a peanut. She is actually an offspring of Sage and Sunny's sister. But Willow had a litter of 12, and number 4 puppy was stuck. And because she was so pregnant, those puppies actually in the uterus almost acted like a suction. So we just could not pull that puppy out. And then for Sammy, her puppies were just humongous. And so she didn't even deliver any puppies. Her first puppy was stuck. So it really pays off when you have an amazing relationship with your vet in town, that you just call them and say, hey, I have a stuck puppy. And they say, all right, come on over. Let's do the C-section. But there's so much that goes into it, and just knowing, how did I know that there was a stuck puppy? Well, I could feel the stuck puppy. And how do you know when they're done? Well, the puppy count x-ray shows that. And you can also tell when a mama is relaxed versus when she is in labor. And so there are so many things that go into this that I really should just start my own podcast. I've thought about the name already, Whelping with Whitney. We'll see if it ever comes about. Um, but that just goes into now this fall. So with Josh traveling, it's going to be a way bigger juggle for me this fall, which I'm so excited because I hired on a full-time assistant for myself because I need to still make sure that I am producing puppies to fulfill our 2-year reservation list and making sure that they are getting the care, love. It's going to be the quality of communication that I strive for, and making sure that just because Josh is gone, just because we have 2 kids, just because we may have a lot of puppies on the ground at once, I want to make sure everything is staying the exact same, whether I have 1 litter on the ground or 4 litters on the ground. And so I hired on my assistant. She is amazing. She does a lot of like the cleaning of the pens. She will take the puppies outside and play with them for extra time outside, extra socialization. She puts together all my puppy packets, my go home boxes. It's incredible, which relieves me of everything that is extremely important that I actually don't really need to be doing all the time because I want to be communicating with people. If you haven't learned in this podcast, I love, love, love communicating with all of our clients. And so that's a huge part of it for me, is that I still want that one-on-one touch with all of our clients. And then when the puppies go outside to play, like, I can be the one to still watch all their little personalities evolve. I'm still the one doing all the vaccinations at 6 weeks. I'm still the one deworming at 5 weeks. I'm still the one doing the whelping. There's all these important things that I still want to be a part of and I still need to be a part of. But now I have my assistant, Abby, who can go and do all this other very crucial things. But now she can take that role in that. So that's how we're going to go into this fall. I have Lola and Benelli bred. They're sisters. They're offsprings from our first Breslin and Bud litter. And I'm so excited because we bred Lola to Clyde. As you know, Clyde is a bit of a fire dog, what we call, fire and water. And Lola, she actually has more fire to her than what I had remembered when she came in for bird and gun introduction. She's just the cutest little black female. And I bred her with Clyde. I'm so excited for that litter. And then Benelli, Benelli's got a great personality. She is probably the most laid back female that we have bred Strike to. And so we bred Strike to Sunny this spring, and we had bred him to Yogi last year. And Yogi was a very dominant female, so much so that when I went to breed them naturally for the first time, Yogi ended up mounting Strike. And I was like, oh, oh my gosh, Strike, come on, dude. They got it figured out. But then I bred him to Sunny. So I would say Yogi was definitely the most dominant female that we bred him to. Then Sunny's like middle of the road. And then I bred him to Benelli, which is so sweet, so easygoing. And it's going to be so fun to just watch these personalities of these 3 different litters, come through training and see what Strike continues to pass down. Because to be completely honest, like, Strike puppies in my eyes, I wish Josh was here because he could give a little bit of his insight on it. But from my eyes, from what I saw when they came through training, is that they actually have more fire under them than what I would expect a Strike puppy to have, because Strike is so calm, so methodical, so like just you look at his eyes and you're just like, oh my gosh, he's just the sweetest soul in the world. So I just cannot wait for those 2 litters. And then we just imported 3 new females. I'm so excited. Went to Chicago. We imported them. They flew over the pond. We have to go to Chicago rather than Minneapolis, because Minneapolis, when COVID hit, all the airlines that imported dogs into Minneapolis shut down, and they're still not shipping dogs. So now we have to bring them into Chicago, which is like a 6-hour drive one way for us. It's a very long day, but we just imported Spay, Rona, and Molly, and they're very different personalities. They're so fun. They're so cute. When we import them, they actually do all of their hip and elbow x-rays over in the UK. So when we purchase them, we know what their hips and elbows are. So when you're on our website, if you go under the sires and dams little drop-down box under puppies, you'll see if they have actually been looked at in the US or the UK. The UK grades on numbers, the US grades on like just good, excellent, fair. And so that could be a whole nother podcast in itself. I'm not even gonna go down that road. But so they're imported. I'm really getting to know them. It's been so fun getting to know their 3 different personalities. Spay is the black one. Rona is the very light yellow. And then Molly we call her Wee Molly because she's just a peanut. I bet she's like 45 pounds right now. She's so sweet and so tiny. She reminds us so much of Spitfire Sage, who we used to own. Her name isn't Spitfire Sage. It's actually Lady Sage. But we call her Spitfire because she was such a little Spitfire. So depending on how these girls work out and when they come into heat, we may be breeding them as well sooner than later. I just ordered their genetic testing from Paw Print Genetics. So that's 22 genetics that we test all of our sires and dams for. It's literally every single genetic disorder that you can test a Labrador for through Paw Print Genetics. Obviously, the 3 common ones, EIC, exercise-induced collapse, PRA, it's a progressive retinal atrophy. There's actually 3 different types of that we test for. And then we have SD2, which is skeletal dysplasia, which the dogs are dwarfs. Those are the 3 common ones. As you know, Josh and I run these businesses that we want to do everything we possibly can to be running the best business and handing over the healthiest puppies. So that is why I do the full 2 panels. And then I also add a couple extras. So we are waiting to get those in the mail. Then I will send them in, get everything updated on the website. And then I have some other litters throughout the fall. So I think totaling up, I'm probably going to have about 7 more litters between August and December, which I'm really excited about. And then next spring, a lot of our females that we bred this spring, this will be their 2nd breeding. And so it's going to be very similar year next year. But now I have my assistant that will help me with everything. So that's how we have it on the breeding side. That is how Josh and I handle going into these busy seasons. It'll be very interesting going into this season with being probably the busiest fall. I, of course, want to get my upland hunting in with Bracken and Purdy. And so, yes, he's letting me take Bracken again, which I'm so excited about. You can just see when Bracken's in that upland field, you can just see he thrives. Honestly, he thrives in that. And him and I are just buddies. I don't know. There's just something about my little Bracken that I love and adore so much. And when we can take it into the hunting field, it's just a whole nother element added on top of that. And so that's what we're going to be doing. You can follow along with us on social media, of course. You've probably noticed that we're trying to do more reels, which have been so fun. Josh and I are not the greatest at social media because we are so busy being so hands-on with training, his seminars, and my puppies that we kind of lack in that sometimes. So we now have someone at the kennel that is helping us do all of the reels, and it's really fun to watch how she puts all of them together. So I hope you guys are enjoying that. But I'm going to stop rambling now. I think you guys are probably like, all right, lady, wrap it up. So that's where we're at. Show season, 10-year anniversary, hunting season, and puppy season. We have all of it coming up between August and December, and we are so excited. So hope you guys enjoyed the podcast today. I am logging off, and we will talk to you next week. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Leave us a review on iTunes, and a special thank you to Eukanuba because without them, we couldn't do what we do here, bringing this information to you.